This is online lecture number 5, Introduction to Adobe Acrobat. I'll start with a brief history of Adobe Acrobat. In the early 1990s, as you may recall from our first lecture, the modern internet, as we know it now, had just been released to the public. And one thing that had become clear is that we needed some way of trading documents from one place to the other using a common application. At the time, the only way to do this was to have the application it was written on. For example, if a document was written on WordPerfect, you weren't able to open it on anything but WordPerfect. So we needed something that was common that we used on multiple platforms, including different computer types such as Apple and Windows-based computers. Now, there were numerous companies in competition to create the software product. In 1993, Adobe released their first suite of products to meet this need. At the time, they called them Adobe Reader, Acrobat Exchange, and Acrobat Distiller. Now, Adobe has actually been changing their names of their software quite frequently over the years, and as you'll see, it goes by a different name now, but that was the basic product back then. Was still the same idea, where you had the reader that would be used just to read, and then Exchange and Distiller had to do with creating the actual documents from their source documents. So Adobe was actually responsible for the creation of the PDF or portable document format standard. They actually invented it. At the time of its release in 1993, it was proprietary and remained that for quite some time, which meant that other companies could not write software using this standard format. By 2008, the PDF format was so common and used so widely that it was released as an open standard, which means that other companies could use the PDF standard in their software. And of course, now PDF documents are quite commonplace. Prior to 2008, the only company that could write software utilizing the PDF format was Adobe. Since then, many other companies have come out with their own PDF editing software packages. However, the Adobe packages are the original packages that came out for this use. The basic idea of a PDF is that you have a document that resembles the document that may have come off something like Word or WordPerfect or something along those lines. However, in this format, it cannot be altered, which allows it to be more secure. So you can share documents without having people make changes to them. The other thing is that it can be viewed on many different devices and many different operating systems without having to use the original software that the document was created in. So there are a number of key features of PDF files that are notable. First one is compatibility. So PDF files are viewable and printable on today virtually any platform. Of course, that includes Windows and Macs, but also Android, other Apple products, and even ebook readers such as Kindle, Sony, and so forth. Accessibility has to do with assistive technologies for people with disabilities. That particular feature is one of the more advanced features in the Adobe Acrobat DC Pro, as we'll see later. Security is also common in PDF documents. So one way you can protect them is with passwords. You can actually prevent a PDF document from being copied or printed or having pages extracted. You can even prevent it from people from copying text out of the pages using copy and paste. and you can stop it from being printed as well. So there are many levels of security that you can assign to these documents using PDFs. Another important feature of PDF documents is searchability. Along with the other advantages, PDF documents allow you to do searches within the actual document, which is not common in other files such as Word or WordPerfect. And these text features also use something called metadata. Now, metadata is basically data about data. In other words, it's information about the content of the file itself. PDFs are also very efficient for storage purposes. They are highly compressed. Adobe uses different algorithms to make the file as small as possible without losing its quality. Now, another thing that people may not be aware of is font management. When you have a computer, an operating system, if you go into a application such as Word or Excel and you have many different fonts available, the reason those fonts are available is because they are installed on that machine. They would not show up in those applications if they weren't. With the PDF files, any font that they use is embedded into the file. Now, what this means is if you have a font in a PDF file that doesn't exist on the computer you're viewing it on, it will still show up as that font because it's embedded in the file. It does not require it to be on the computer itself. Extensibility. PDF files also contain features that do not affect the final appearance, but are useful, such as, again, metadata, which is data about data, that can contain things like title, author, creation date, and also file identifiers, which is a reference that helps one PDF file identify contents of another. We'll take a look right now at what the current or contemporary Adobe Acrobat products are. Now, I'd mentioned what they start out as in 1993, and I've also mentioned that Adobe does like to change their product names quite frequently. So currently, what they have is in the Adobe Acrobat suite, there is the Reader DC. That is the free version that we're going to be loading in our lab this week. It allows you to view and print PDFs, also electronic signatures. The DC Standard has the editing features and it's not as extensive as the DC Pro, but both of them allow you to edit and create PDF documents. The only difference with DC Pro is it's upgraded to allow certain scanning features and accessibility modifications. Very important note about software for this class. As I had mentioned at the beginning of the semester, there was some inconsistencies between the lab book and the current Adobe software, and I had attempted to inform everyone several times not to purchase textbooks for this class, and also that there may be a necessity to purchase the actual software for this class. At this point in time, KVCC this semester will provide you with a 3-month subscription to the Acrobat DC Pro, which is the top level product in Adobe Acrobat. So I'll be having more information on that hopefully later this week, and we're trying to get that in place by next week so you can be using it. Acrobat DC Pro is a program that can run on either Microsoft Windows or the Mac OS. Go through real quickly the system requirements. Now, if you have a Microsoft Windows computer, that's any computer running Windows, you're going to need these requirements. A processor 1.5 gigahertz or faster. You can run on Windows basically 7, any Windows 8 or Windows 10. So if you don't have at least Windows 7, it probably won't work. You should have 1 gigabyte of RAM, which is extremely common. There shouldn't be any problem there. Requires 4.5 gigabytes of a hard drive space and 1024 by 768 screen resolution. as well as Internet Explorer 11, Firefox, or Chrome. So most computers are going to have these qualifications. I will mention that the 1.5 gigahertz requirement, I'm quite sure that some laptops run and less than that, say 1 gigahertz, 1.2. They should be fine. They may not be as fast as you'd like them to be. But anything with those meets those requirements should work just fine. But the most important one is, of course, that it has to be Windows 7 or higher. Requirements for Macs. Now, I am personally not as familiar with the Mac devices, but these are the requirements for it. Apparently, it requires an Intel processor. The listed Mac OS versions, probably the latest Safari browser versions, and again, 1 gigabyte of RAM, which isn't very much, and the hard drive space and the screen resolution are pretty standard amongst any contemporary computer or laptop. So in closing, if you have any questions on system requirements as we begin to get closer to the installation of this DC Pro software, please contact me directly through one of our regular methods listed on Moodle. Also, I want to mention that this same software is available on campus, both at the Texas Township, which is the main campus computer lab, and the Center for New Media Computer Lab, which is downtown Kalamazoo. Now, there are two locations in downtown Kalamazoo. The Center for New Media is about a block and a half from the other main location in downtown Kalamazoo, but there is a computer lab there as well. So you can find that on the KVCC website on the map if you decide you want to work from one of those locations. This completes our presentation for the introduction of Adobe Acrobat. Please be sure to do the small quiz. There's 10-question quiz on Moodle to be completed this week, as well as the lab. And in the lab, we'll be loading the free Adobe Reader version and simply bringing a document on that. Also, in the lab, you will be downloading all of the files that we'll be using in our Adobe Acrobat labs for the remainder of the semester. And again, if you have any questions regarding the software, please contact me as soon as possible.